Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes, and I hate to say I was right. No, I don't. I was right, and I love it. Because when initially the minimum unit price of alcohol was announced, and everyone said this is a really bad idea, and by everyone I mean the retail people, the retail industry, they said it was bad. The booze industry, they said it was bad. Academic studies have proven it was bad. Tax experts and accountants and economists all said this is bad. But the SNP had a point to push. Basically, it was Sturgeon who brought this in. She is someone I don't think drinks a lot, and so she says, no, nobody in Scotland can have a good time. You can't have a wee dram or a swally on a Friday night. So she starts bringing this in and pushes the price of alcohol artificially high. Now, it's not a tax. This money does not go to the government. It goes into the coffers of the supermarkets. So while the supermarkets like it in terms of it's more profitable per unit they sell, they realise they're going to sell a lot fewer units, and therefore their profits aren't going to be as high overall. It's just the markup on each particular bottle will be better. But anyway, anyone was against it. And despite the failure, because believe you me, it failed, after a couple of years, they noticed that actually alcohol consumption was increasing, alcohol abuse was increasing. There were far more reports of alcohol-related deaths. There was also the problem that those people who couldn't afford the alcohol were switching to other products freely available on street corners for a lot less than the net relative cost of the alcohol. And so those deaths were increasing as well. It was a failed social experiment. It should have been stopped, and it should have been condemned to the dustbin of history for being one of the most stupid ideas ever implemented. Especially, as everyone said in advance, it was one of the most stupid ideas you could possibly implement. But no, they didn't cancel it. They doubled down. And what did they do? They put another 30% onto this alcohol minimum unit price for alcohol. And the problem gets worse. The trouble is, alcoholics will drink and they don't care what the price is. Meanwhile, their families starve. This policy is pushing children into poverty. It's destroying families. It's weakening finances. It's also killing even more people as even more people take to the corner products and shove it in their arm, up their nose, up their rectum, wherever they can find anywhere that they can shove it. And of course, those deaths are increasing exponentially now. If ever there was a failed policy, it is this. And still they continue. Now, when these comes out the first time and when the 30% was announced, I said on both occasions what will happen. I said there will be booze cruises. In much the same way as back in the day, you all used to drive down to Dover, get on the ferry, go across to Calais, fill the van up, loads of booze, get back on the ferry, come back home, 1,000 fags, whatever. Throw them all in there, away you go. Well, the same thing's happening, only this time they haven't got to go all the way to Dover. They just go into Carlisle or Berwick. So either Cumbria or Northumberland, depending on which side of the country you're on, a little cruise down in your old van. You go up to the supermarket and you just stack the van up. The difference, for example, let's say a bottle of whiskey. A bottle of whiskey in England, £14. A bottle of whiskey in Scotland, £19. It's a fiver a bottle. Well, you've got to think. 2 bottles and you've saved your fuel, haven't you? Everything after that is a bonus. It's earnings. And especially if you're buying lots of it to take back up and flog at £1 bottle extra. Buy it for 14, sell it for 15. They're still getting it way cheaper than they can buy it in the shops there, and you're making money. And do you think this is happening? Oh boy, is this happening. It's happening so much that off licenses and supermarkets north of the border are reporting a crash in profits. People aren't spending money because they're often going in and buying beers and then while they're there buying something else. But now because they're not going in for the beers, they're not going to buy the other thing. And so supermarkets and off licenses north of the border are in danger of going out of business. Off licenses especially. But even supermarkets are struggling and having to lay people off. Meanwhile, the likes of Asda, Sainsbury's, Tesco's, etc., south of the border, in, say, Carlisle, for example, booming trade, can't keep up. They're saying they're almost doubling their alcohol sales in the last couple of months. Well, why is that? They say they keep getting the big white vans coming down. Literally, guys coming out with pallet loads of drink. And what can the Scottish government do about it? Nothing. The drink's being bought legally. The tax is being paid. There's no legal maximum amount of drink you can own. What can they do? Nothing. There is literally nothing they can do. It's legal moonshining, isn't it? Booze running. You used to get it in America when they used to have the whiskey runners used to come down from Canada and bring the drink south into the United States in the 20s during Prohibition. Well, then it was illegal, and the American Secret Service, I believe it was, or who was Elliot Ness? Treasury, United States Treasury, wasn't he? He was all involved with that. But that's because it was illegal. It's not illegal to do this in Britain. And because it's not illegal, people are doing it. Now, as I say, the amount of people doing it is phenomenal. When stores are reporting a doubling of sales, you know how big a trade this is. And as I say, it's perfectly legal. Tax is all paid. But when the differential is so high that is worth it, then how do you think it's reducing the amount of drinking in Scotland? No, they're just not paying for it in Scotland. But this is what happens when you have complete and utter fuckwits, because there's no other word for them, running a country and thinking that when they say things, people will obey. No, you fail to understand one of the most basic, fundamental aspects of human beings. They're smart, and there's always a loophole, and they will go to any length to say screw you to authority. Just because you don't want to pay the Scottish price doesn't mean you can't pay the English price. And that, dear friends, is what's doing. And I tell you, they are at a loss to do this. The only way that they can actually stop this would be to bring into Scotland a maximum amount of alcohol, a law that says you cannot own more than this amount of alcohol. Fine. Technically, you're making it illegal. How are you going to police it? You haven't got enough policemen now. And how many vans and cars drive across that border, never mind every day, every hour? No chance. Not a chance in hell. It's a stupid law, it's a damaging law, and it's a law made by a woman who really wants to end, and then backed up, of course, by a man who really wants to end alcohol in Scotland and make Scotland a dry state, presumably so that all the new Scots will feel welcome in their new Sharia-compliant Scotland. But hey, these people keep voting for them. If you're SNP and like a wee swally, ask yourself why you're SNP. Thanks a lot. Bye.